It finally happened. The thing the internet has been rooting for since it was created thousands of years ago to share memes. San Marino. San Marino won a football match. They won a match. The first competitive match ever won in the history of San Marino. Second ever win overall. They won a friendly way back in the day against Liechtenstein, which coincidentally happens to be the team that they beat again. This all happened in the beautiful, beautiful landscape of Nations League D, which if you don't take the opportunity to watch Nations League D in Europe, this is the bottom tier of the Nations League structure from A to D. It's only called D because there's no Z out there. This league is awesome. The group San Marino is in is San Marino, Gibraltar, and Liechtenstein. Three powerhouses of the sport. I'm pretty sure the total population of these three countries is less than my city block in New York. And yet, they are represented by national teams that can play against France and Germany and Italy and England and Spain and everybody else in Europe just because somebody forgot to conquer them way back in the day, basically, is kind of how it worked for San Marino and Liechtenstein. But now they are symbols of perseverance, symbols of national pride. And I want to be very clear here. I think this whole San Marino thing is awesome. I think too often the fun police show up and then, every once in a while somebody kind of ruins it by like actually making fun of San Marino. Like, they're not supposed to be good. That's not the point. None of these teams are supposed to be good. They're just trying to achieve something. They're trying to achieve literally anything in order to create some sort of excitement, some sort of national pride. They're trying to get the name of their country out there at all. Because it's definitely one of the questions that gets asked around these kinds of micronations that are sending out national teams full of plumbers and taxi drivers to compete against Kylian Mbappe and company, right? And why they're doing it and what the point is. And I'd argue it's exactly the same as the point of any other national team. Just because my country takes 3 days to drive across and their country takes about 10 minutes, if you're willing to get a little reckless with road laws, that doesn't necessarily change the fact that you want to have a team that represents who you are and where you're from. And as weird as it may seem, whether it be Gibraltar, San Marino, or Liechtenstein, the people from those places feel maybe a lot, maybe a little different than those around them, but they do have, an international border that allows them to be different. They are an independent country and they are represented by a team representing that independent country the same as everybody else. And now as somebody that majored in history, I am, of course, incredibly interested in the idiosyncrasies of how a nation like this comes to exist in the first place. When it comes to like football and soccer, that shit doesn't really matter, does it? This is a country, it is in Europe, and it is going to put together a national team. And in San Marino, I would argue, has managed to accomplish its goals better than Gibraltar or Liechtenstein or Andorra, or I wouldn't go as far as the Faroe Islands. They put together a pretty darn competitive team recently, but San Marino has achieved notoriety. There are a lot more people on this planet that know what San Marino is and a little bit about its backstory and have danced their way on over to a certain Wikipedia page to learn a little bit more about San Marino. There are more people that have done that. Certainly a lot more than would have otherwise if San Marino wasn't playing in all of these matches. Because San Marino might have won this match, which is, again, awesome. Incredibly exciting for San Marino. But the mediocrity that San Marino put together, the slow burn of constantly losing and being the worst team in the world only to get to this point finally, that created a significant following. And I don't think people realize exactly how ridiculously large this following is. A great example is the fact that you probably heard about this before you clicked on this video. But the San Marino fan account, if for whatever reason you didn't know it existed, the San Marino 1 tweet they put out, 119,000 likes, 2.9 million views, which is, Twitter, so it's probably definitely fake, but just an incredible following. 170,000 people follow this account on Twitter. At any time San Marino plays, they have at least one of their tweets that kind of goes viral. It's the same on other social media platforms talking about this San Marinese team. They've recruited this army of followers, and it's gorgeous. And I can't help but thinking that some leader in San Marino is sitting somewhere like this was their master plan all along, and San Marino's kind of relevance has been recognized, because I think the greatest enemy of a country like this in the first place is just fading into who gives a shit? Like, it is very possible for a country like San Marino to fade into who gives a shit. And deep, like, kind of paradox strategy game type strategies that might be going on here. The actual sporting story is just awesome. Now, first, there was a goal disallowed in the first half of this match, right? And I knew that this match was coming up for a couple of days, right? People start to sound the alarm that San Marino is playing a match that it might have a chance to win, like a match at home against Liechtenstein, the only team it's ever beaten in its history, in that one friendly back in the mists of time when, dinosaurs walked the earth. Well, people started on Twitter, on stream, people would come in and be like, hey, San Marino might have a shot. Liechtenstein's coming up on the schedule, like that kind of crescendo building up. And then all the sadness when the goal's disallowed. And then in the 53rd minute, there was a goal scored. And I'm using the word goal kind of loosely here because I don't know what you're imagining a goal scored by the worst team in football would look like. It's probably something like this. Here you go. We've got San Marino in the white. We've got classic buildup, beautiful ball. Glorious. Absolutely glorious. I mean, as the tweet says, exactly how I'd imagine a San Marino goal. Yes, this is exactly what you would envision a goal for San Marino to take a lead in this situation. Now, Liechtenstein is certainly not covered himself in glory here. Just a terrible header. Goalkeeper just tries to swat the ball away with one hand and just gets beaten to the ball by the guy. I mean, it's completely terrible football, and yet it is beautiful, right? I used to broadcast sports. Okay, I used to broadcast all sorts of sports. Wrestling, field hockey, soccer, football, basketball, lacrosse. I've done play-by-play broadcasting, baseball. I've stood up there and broadcast all of those sports. And as a result, when I would explain my job, when that was my job, I would have people ask me, be like, well, what is your favorite sport to commentate? And my answer was, I don't care what sport it is, as long as it's intense, as long as it means something, right? Because if it's a soccer friendly, I don't give a shit, right? But if it is a tiddlywinks grand final where somebody's trying to beat the person that they've lost to 3 straight times and their mom just died of cancer, I'm not rooting for anybody to die of cancer, right? But their mom just died of cancer and they're from this really obscure part of the world that, all they care about is tiddlywinks. Like, I'm going to be watching the damn tiddlywinks. I don't care about the friendly, right? Like, I just want it to mean something to somebody. I want there to be stakes. And what this Nations League D has created, what these San Marino matches have created, it's almost like a gladiator type of fight. And we're all sitting in the amphitheater, and we're just watching the two micronations just kind of like whack each other until somebody actually wins. And we've been rooting for San Marino because they've never won. And this meant something to everybody in San Marino. I've never been there. I've never met somebody from San Marino. But if you are from a nation that size, right, I've been to Gibraltar or whatever, when that national team is able to do something, when you're able to do something that makes you proud, like as much as that notoriety of your national team having never won a competitive match is there, but when you're able to do something that actually makes your nation proud, that's a really special feeling. And I'll just give this to you live. I think we can show this to you fine. It's just cell phone footage from the stands. This is the final whistle blowing in San Marino as San Marino wins its first ever competitive game. And look what it means to Liechtenstein, too. Look at the Liechtensteinian players when this whistle hits. I mean, that's awesome. If you don't feel something watching that, right, then you're soulless. That is why you play the game. You play any sport, hoping you'll have the opportunity to be involved in a moment that means that much and is that dramatic for anybody. There are a lot of people that are going to play football or soccer at a higher level than these guys for San Marino. There are not a lot of people that are going to pull off a win that means more to the people that mean a lot to them than these guys that played in this particular match. And this is why football is beautiful. This is why sports is beautiful. This is why people watch the Olympics. It's because every day you get some crazy shit like this. But this one had been loading up for 30 years, right? Like this one had been winding up since San Marino decided to create a national football program, since it decided to attempt to distinguish itself, to attempt to compete against these other, at least micronations in Europe, to be not the worst team in Europe. An attempt mainly in futility to try and grab that one moment that they could hang on to forever. Right? Because if you were a fan of the U.S. national team, if you're a fan of the English national team, if you're a fan of the Brazilian national team or whatever, right, there are going to be a lot of moments over the course of your life where you're going to be able to grab it and be like, that's why we watch. That's the point. That, this is awesome and I love it. I'll hang on to it forever. Right? I've got John Brooks for the USA. I've got Landon Donovan against Algeria in 2010. I've got us blowing Mexico out in the Nations League final. I've got Ethan Horvath with a last-second save on a Guardado penalty in the Nations League final in CONCACAF, which is for some reason more important than the actual national tournament in CONCACAF. It's the Nations League. That's when all the A teams show up. Whatever. I have those moments I can hang on to. If you're San Marinese, you've never had that. You had like a goal and a loss against Denmark where you drew level immediately. Now you have a win. Like I can't even imagine for the first time ever in a competitive setting to be able to go, we are better. We beat one other nation in Europe. And it's like the tournament within the tournament in this Nations League D, right? The micronations are all competing against each other to see who can find a way to squeeze the most talent out of a rock, basically. I mean, if you're Gibraltar, literally trying to squeeze talent out of a rock, but trying to find 11 dudes out of a population of under 40,000 that might be able to go on a field and give somebody a game. And they finally did. Then it always blew my mind that a micronation that's completely surrounded by Italy was not able to put together 11 dudes that were able to win a match against a Liechtenstein or a Gibraltar or a Malta or an Andorra. But now they have. Now they have. And they are forever going to be remembered for it. I mean, all you have to do is check the Wikipedia pages to know. It's already been corrected, but the Wikipedia page of Nico Sansoli was briefly changed to he is the second coming of Christ because he scored the goal in San Marino's first win. It's been removed already, but it was there. I mean, these guys, like, just by virtue of where they were born, were given an opportunity to make some spectacular, special memory. And it also shows that kind of hard work pays off. The more famous San Marino got for being bad, the more they tried to be a little less bad. The more they put that max effort into it in the same way that Gibraltar has. I've been kind of studying it, and multiple Gibraltarian teams won European home and away matches over the course of the last year. I mean, Lincoln Red Imps nearly got into the Conference League group stages out of Gibraltar because of that kind of investment in developing players, and basically every boy in Gibraltar is given the opportunity to try and make one of the top teams and given the, full length of training. And that's happening more in San Marino. And it paid off. This is just like one of the best, purest, fun stories in football right now. And we just got the biggest payoff on it possible. I really hope that this is the start of something for San Marino where they can actually get that type of result that really blows people's minds. Any one of these micronations, Andorra, Liechtenstein, even a Faroe Islands, if they can go out there in a competitive match and get a draw, get a win against one of those big teams, that they'd be set for a lifetime. That's the whole point of these FAs, is to create that one moment. And San Marino tonight has that one moment. Good for them. This is a pure happiness Zealandism, that's for sure.